as we blaze on through this. I've only got 3 more to go and I'm caught up, so I'm just going to keep going. This is 26 January 2021. This is SIG 23. This particular catch-up is from 20 January 2021. Political warning. Biden's executive order blitz to undo Trump legacy. On his first day in office, Biden plans a blitz of executive orders, he already did, to undo a number of Trump legacies. At least 17 first-day executive orders are planned, including rejoining the Paris Climate Agreement. The people in Paris said it wasn't even necessary because the United States has managed carbon emissions so well, it's pointless. But it's simply a way to tax the American people. And the World Health Organization, because, they're fucking reliable. Reversing the census effort, because why wouldn't we want why wouldn't we want non-citizens actually voting or being counted for domestic policies, resulting in the inclusion of illegal aliens and congressional apportionment, and repealing the National Emergency Declaration on the southern border, because why wouldn't you just have people stream across, because why not? Which will halt construction at the border wall, which he already had. Basically, that's one of the areas where 56,000 Americans lost their jobs at the stroke of a pen. That's what you wanted. Let's see. Biden also plans to extend the eviction and foreclosure freeze out to 31 March and extend the student loan interest and payment moratorium to 30 September. Okay, those I actually agree with, because since the government is the one that's been responsible for screwing over so many people because of all this COVID nonsense, yeah, this should be at least this. Incoming Press Secretary Jen Psaki, P-S-A-K-I, warned there are many more to come. Additionally, Domestic Policy Council Director Susan Rice, Joy, we'll have her again for a while, has been ordered to lead a racial equity review in which every government agency will have to review if and how its policies lead to racial disparities. Jesus. Afterwards, and we thought it was bad under Obama. We thought it was bad under Clinton. This is going to be a shitstorm. Or how did somebody else put that? It's a shit sandwich and everybody's going to have to take a bite. In which, let's see. Afterwards, the Office of Budget and Management will more equitably allocate federal resources to ensure disparate policies are fixed. Observers note, Biden is expected to sign the most first-day executive orders in presidential history, and he did. Former President Obama stoked renewed interest in disparate impact, in which federal policies that are implemented fairly still adversely impact a protected group. The racial equity review will likely lead to disparate impact policy changes, which they expect to see in future executive orders. McCarthy warns on speaking out against politicians. In a recent call to Republican House members, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, Republican of California, warned colleagues not to speak out or criticize Democrats or other Republicans for their positions on the Trump impeachment. Quote, later after this call, I'm going to get another briefing from the FBI. The briefings that I'm getting, you can incite something else. I get these reports on a weekly basis. I've seen something I haven't seen before. Do not raise another member's name on television, even if they are in a different position or not. What you say matters. Let's not put other people in danger. Let's watch what words we're using, and let's definitely not be using other members' names in the media, McCarthy advised. This is not a bad idea for everybody on social media. Now that this particular kindly saying administration is occupying the seat. Well, word to the wise. The FBI seems to be warning McCarthy of possible credible threats over the Trump impeachment, and McCarthy is obviously concerned that public criticism could lead to political violence. They can't confirm or deny that threats are credible, although there's an obvious risk for lone wolf violence. Usually it only comes from one place. UPD update. Ironically, Senator Whitehouse urges IRS action on Turning Point USA. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, Democrat, Rhode Island, recently encouraged the Internal Revenue Service to investigate conservative youth group Turning Point USA for their part in organizing the Stop the Steal protest at the Capitol on 6 January. Specifically, Whitehouse claims that the organization contributed to a COVID super spreader event, which he says should be grounds to revoke the group's tax-exempt status. Observers note, these are particularly weak grounds under which to revoke a tax-exempt status, which likely points to political motivation. No shit, you think? As opposed to health and safety. Low-intensity conflict and so. Liberal Usurpation Day disruptions. Several far-left groups, or just liberals, are holding disruptions then in Washington, D.C. and other cities across the country. Posters from anarchist and anti-fascist groups are calling for leftists to push back against right-wing violence and to prevent a fascist creep from returning. I'm going to get into that later on. Not now, but later on. What is fascism, really? And how can we see that in our society today? Many groups are calling for the abolishment of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, for the charges against rioters at the 2017 inauguration to be dropped, and for the Biden administration to enact far-left policies. Other groups are bluntly opposing any form of government and the end of the presidency entirely, observers note. In 2017, hundreds of rioters were arrested after Black Bloc anti-fascists initiated clashes with law enforcement just blocks away from the inauguration ceremony. Given the increased security and lack of attendance to the ceremony this year, the same scale is unlikely. Remote disruptions, such as the bomb threat called in on the Supreme Court that day, the 22nd, I guess, could occur throughout the day. Anti-fascist, Black Lives Matter activists and other far-left groups, however, have planned multiple disruptions in other major cities where security measures have been bumped up, but not to the level of D.C. Far left studying military insurgency and stability operations manuals. Far left chat room participants are sharing, discussing, and studying the Army's Stability Operations Manual. The manual details military procedures to establish security, services, development, and tactical conflict considerations to areas claimed from insurgent forces. Why aren't Americans doing this? Why aren't Americans doing this? Observers note, as far-left groups continue to become familiar with the military's research and doctrine regarding insurgencies, they will have an increased capability to provoke government oversteps and undermine counterinsurgent campaigns in the future. Former Syrian militant arrested for plotting inauguration violence in Florida. The Federal Bureau of Investigation arrested Army veteran and former Syrian militant Daniel A. Baker, yes, he was dishonorably discharged, for allegedly plotting violence at the Florida State Capitol in Tallahassee leading up to Inauguration Day. According to the federal criminal complaint, Baker had issued a call to arms online last week and stated his intent to torture police officers and willingness to die fighting the enemy. Baker allegedly participated in the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone in Seattle last year to participate in the revolution, quote unquote. Most notably, he reportedly fought with the YPG, against ISIS and Turkey in 2017 and trained members of the YPG International Academy on military tactics. Observers note far-left groups have been recruiting leftist veterans for their combat experience and skills that could benefit the proto-insurgency, specifically Americans, and I hate calling them that because they're not Americans, who served or are still serving with the YPG in the Middle East are a significant resource for leftists. Actually, let me amend that previous statement. Specifically, Americans who served or are still serving with the YPG in the Middle East are a significant resource for leftists regarding insurgencies and unconventional warfare. But people like this Baker, he gave up the right to be an American. Yeah, it's enough that he is a dishonorably discharged individual who served in the United States Army. It's enough. I'll leave that. I'll leave that for later. I've expressed my views on that. Far-left groups purchasing vehicles to expand mutual aid and incident response capability. Far-left groups have raised thousands of dollars this week, last week really, for vans or trucks to increase the mobility and reach of mutual aid programs. They claim these vehicles will allow them to better deliver supplies, support eviction blockades, and respond to police violence, observers note. In order to establish and maintain territorial control, many far-left revolutionary groups focus their energy on logistics and mutual aid campaigns to build popular support. In doing so, they try to supplant the government in the provision of public services, including security. Increased mobility can allow these groups to further shift their center of gravity away from their main city hubs to ex-urban areas where they hope to exploit gentrification and growing inequality and recruit the poor and working classes into their movement. This strategy can allow the current parochial proto-insurgency to avoid isolation and build area ties, expanding the movement. Armed leftists push members to fabricate homemade weapons. Members of an armed leftist group shared videos of homemade slam-fire shotguns and instructions on how to disarm armed individuals. In addition, they discussed and encouraged other members to become familiar with 3D printing weapons components and completing 80% firearms at home. They concluded their discussions by strongly recommending members never display these homemade firearms on social media or in leftist chat rooms. Again, are Americans doing this? If the liberals are doing this, Americans should be doing this. Observers note, if the liberals are doing any of this, anything in all these videos, anything that For Observer has put out, Americans should be doing exactly the same thing. Observers note, the combination of the coronavirus pandemic, social upheaval, and political turmoil of 2020 had a dramatic impact on the availability and price of firearms on the private market. These discussions indicate that armed leftist groups are realizing that not all members may be able to purchase commercially manufactured firearms due to increased prices and scarcity. They are likely encouraging members. This is what they wanted. This is what they vote for. They are likely encouraging members to explore methods of manufacturing their own firearms to bridge the gap until supply catches up. In addition, greater knowledge of firearms fabrication and disarmament techniques increases their capacity to acquire arms in potential future conflicts. Let's see. I think I can do this one. I think I can. Now I'm going to cut this one off. This is long enough because I don't know how long the next one's going to go, and it'll cut off at 33 minutes. So, All right, that's it for this one. 623 out.